Hey everybody, this is Petey from the Spinner Rack, and we also have
Calvin Ellis, ready to rock.
now we're going to talk about something that's going to be able to be found in Alex Ross's new book that's coming out, I believe, or something either beginning of next year or it's already out, called Alex Ross Unseen. Now he has a lot of projects, cool stuff that didn't actually make it to press, but they look like it's criminal that it didn't make it. And I'm just gonna start giving you, this is where he started with his FF. And he has some of the cool stuff with the Human Torch is there, but I don't think his Fantastic Four was kind of there yet, right? This one was in his Marvels, his first sort of attack try at the FF. We had this image here, but ultimately, with any luck, well, it didn't happen, regretfully, so there's no luck to it at all. This is what he grew into, where it's like he's trying to give them some more of a curvy flair, try to work out the squiggles, to try to be that there was actual shine in them. That's what he's trying to say, that's what Kirby was going for. But ultimately, Kirby squiggles can be used for anything. But this is still cool. I think that where he got to with his designs, I like where he got to with the four, and listen, he really got Reed back the way Reed's supposed to look, very heroic. I'm not necessarily there, but this thing is cool. So,
Reed actually has biceps.
what are your thoughts on this so far?
This is something I would have loved to have read. I mean, just based on this panel right here, we already know that Alex Ross likes drawing these characters in their core or eternal looks, if you will. Mm-hmm. And for him to take on the project and saying, well, look, I want to really try to channel that Stan and Jack era. Yeah, it's something I definitely would have loved to have seen. I mean, just looking at this page right here, this piece, is this something that you would have read 12 issues of this? You would have read 12 issues of this just to see what the end outcome would have been. It looks good. Yeah. It really looks good, especially with the group like the Fantastic Four that a lot of guys just seem to miss. But this looks it looks tight, it looks classic, it looks contemporary, and it looks classic, and I think that's something that the Fantastic Four thrives on. If you can really channel that, you can really channel those early adventures, that classic 100, the classic 1 through 100th issue, along those lines. It just looks like something you really would pick up and like, yeah, I want to see more of this. But we're not going to.
Well, we're going to quickly scan through. He was also going to do some of the effects. I think if you look at, there was a mistake that was done in printing on one of the John Buscema Fantastic Four covers. And then later Marvel did a whole bunch of prints like that, where they did sort of neon sort of things with it. And you can see him trying to sort of gather that with some of these effects. And he was going to also have, I think, some other artists working with him in his plan. His plan was to bring in Bill Sienkiewicz. I keep wanting to say Steve Rude, but I'm not sure about that. This is sort of his trying to go Darth Vader with his Doom right here. But it looks like it just would have been fun. Like, look at all this. Here's the effect I was trying to talk about, having sort of the neon sort of thing, like that's in this one. This was a selling point of saying, oh yeah, this
Go back for a second.
Go back.
Yeah, that's Alex Ross.
Yeah. That's when
for him. That's really good, because Alex Ross for me is not really known for drawing attractive women. His women can come across like, I mean, honestly, like feminized dudes, feminized bodybuilder dudes, that type of stuff. He doesn't necessarily have a good hand for that. But that right there is a very nice, soft, feminine looking Sue Richards. So yeah, this is just more like, okay, wow, his art's actually improved when it comes to drawing women. At least that softer, more feminine type of features that we would expect. Yeah, looking forward to it. I would have definitely enjoyed it.
Definitely see him getting Reed back to that 50s astronaut / Renaissance man, like person who travel throughout space and restart society and on a new land, that sort of thing. So he got these really cool effects that he was doing. And before that, he was doing, I don't think you see, he was doing the classic FF, that stuff, that period where, you know, Kirby kind of became Kirby, and he finally got that too. So it's like you see here having that sort of effect. But ultimately, we'll stop. We'll hold on this for a little while. Ultimately, he came to Marvel with this stuff, and they liked all this stuff. But at the same time, I think Dan Slott, he said, Alex Ross said that Dan Slott really had a first, first look, first, had the option to pass on it if they ever came back to Marvel. So once it came back, he was on it, but they were game for Alex Ross to be involved with the art. But at the same time, he was, this was a whole approach. This was sort of like the same way he went with Marvel's, even though the writers had a large hand, the same with Kingdom Come. This would be somewhere in between, sort of like the way his Marvel X stuff was, where he would be really heavy into the stories with a writer, not just sort of being the artist. But they were kind of offering him just the art, and he kind of said, all right, I'm not necessarily going to do that. But we had to just be in awe and be like, wow, this could have been really cool,
And what was the reason why we're not seeing this? Dan Slott just said, no, I don't want to do it.
No, he just. Oh, that's the interesting part is, and this, the part is like, if you're, all right, say, say you're going to work on the FF, and you see Alex Ross wants to work on the FF. And I think this is ultimately, I think what, there's a book called, what was it? Leave It to Chance, with James Robinson and Paul Smith. And Paul Smith just had a Girl with the Dragon, and James Robinson had this girl, like, I guess, a cult archivist type of character that would go on its adventures. And Paul Smith liked his idea strong enough to allow most of this idea, just, hey, what I was planning, that sounds cooler, let's do that. Now, as Dan Slott has been on Spider-Man he was on it forever. So it's like, why not? Let's see what Alex Ross wants to do, and do that for, a year and a half. Let him get how long would it be? Would it be 1 or 2 years? Like, what was Marvel X? That was like 2 miniseries. What was Justice? That was like 12 issues. Let him get this classic thing out there, and then you can go to your old slam bam stuff you're planning, saying, I'm not losing Alex Ross, that sort of thing. But I guess he had things in mind he wanted to do, and and he would
like what?
All right, I'm trying to be. I can't say how bad those stories that he did were.
No, see, that's the problem. You got something over here that looks okay. I've been taken in as well. I've been taken in by the promo art. Like, oh, wow, this looks great. And then you look at the stuff that actually makes it into the book. And you're like, well, why does the promo art look so much better than stuff in the book? You took more time to put detail into the promo art than you did with the stuff that was going to end up in the book. So I've been taken in by promo art as well. But this looks really damn good. And Alex Ross already has a pedigree behind himself. So why would you say no to this, to do the stuff that you were going to do? This looks like it was going to sell just based on, you had so many things going for it, between name recognition, some really nice shots over here, and the interest would have been there. And Alex, the stuff that he's been attached to has been successful overall. So why doesn't this get the go?
Yeah.
What storyline? What story? That's the thing, though. We didn't get this. These guys did something else. Do we even know what the hell they did? No. That's how well it was. That's how good it was.
Well, regretfully, he said that he tried to say that the FF is comfort food, and he's doing comfort food, and just like, all right, there has to be, like, he has to be. This is what leads you to a superior Spider-Man. When you do comfort food for too long, a writer turns and says, hey, wouldn't it be cool if I killed all of them? Like that's how you get to it when you're doing comfort food, comfort food, comfort food. Next thing you know, you're like, oh, I'm changing. Then you ruin everything. So, I mean,
Yeah, then because, oh, we got to shake it up.
yep, exactly. So ultimately, it's kind of sad because I'm not necessarily, even if I was iffy on it and said if I heard some things I didn't like from, I was like saying, I still would have, same with Marvel X. I'm like, who, this, I want to at least see where it goes. There may be some issues with justice, but hey, some pretty pictures. It'd be something that probably be, in a sense, memorable, if not story for art, like to see where it would go. Because there's been some projects of his, I think like The Kingdom, that he wanted to sort of try to work into the regular Marvel universe, which would be like, I mean, I know how big Mark Waid was at that period, but it would have been more interesting to keep, Alex Ross involved to say, all right, let's see where this goes, see how far he's into it, and see how much more we can get out of him instead of being like, oh, the writer's the guy. And whereas most of the time, one of the most collaborative thing about comic books, and this is across the board from even Chris Claremont, is turn into the artist and say, what do you want to draw? Like everyone likes the Fantastic Four with Art Adams and Walter Simonson, and Walt turned to, to him and said, what do you want to draw? And he said, I want to draw the Skrulls. I want to draw this, the old monsters. And then Kurt Busiek comes in and says, hey, you want to do, you want to do a thing. Why don't you do, like a hot character version of the Fantastic Four and just be collaborative, and have fun because it's comic books. So there's someone saying, hey, how did Man Bat get into, Action Comics 600? Like, hey, Mike Mignola. He said, you want to draw a story from there? He said, what do you want to draw? Oh, Man Bat. Okay. Just have fun. Like you get in the art, it's like saying, hey, I'm going to be writing this comic book for X amount of years. Have your first year or year and a half be Alex Ross, Dan Slott collaboration and still, but I mean, that's the thing. He still gets to be Dan Slott. So it's just, I didn't want to turn it into complain about the Dan Slott because I could spend a long time complaining about that FF.
We got a long time. No, I'm just always flabbergasted at the stuff that doesn't make it. It's like, why didn't this get a go? This looks like, people may actually like it. No, we can't do this. We're going to do this. I mean, you brought up The Kingdom, and whatever the ideas that Waid and Ross had for The Kingdom, that's not what we got to see. We got to see something else. Because at one point, Alex Ross just said, no, I'm just out of this altogether. So the stuff that we get to see is like, okay, this is not. this is not what the two of them would have probably done if they had actually collaborated together. But and then you read The Kingdom, and you're like, oh, okay. You're like, okay, that it doesn't feel like something fully formed because it's not something fully formed. So that's probably the best. That's probably the best I could actually give to it. But hey, what can you say? There's very little else you can. It's frustrating because you're like, okay, well, what would we have gotten if these guys had actually collaborated on it? Great. Or what would we have gotten if he had actually gotten the green light? And then it just makes us say, who's making the decisions around here? That looks like the new hotness right there. And we don't get that. We get something else. And then you're right. Then we get the whole, hey, we gotta, the Fantastic Four is too much comfort food and this, that, and the other. We gotta shake stuff up. We gotta shake it up. What do we do?
Yeah.
What do we do? Oh, I know. We're gonna make all the Fantastic Four Skrulls. We'll make them all. We'll try to do something to make them evil.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because that's usually the best that they can do. Let's turn it on their ear and like go from there and go from this and that. And like, no, can we get some really good stories involving the Fantastic Four? No, we got to shake things up. And then after we shake it up, we can bring them back to their core. Can we bring them back to their core without shaking things up?
Yeah. It's
No, instead, we'll get some nonsense. We'll get like zombie Fantastic Four, for like a good 12 issues. And then everybody who hates the Fantastic Four will jump on the book.
well, I don't know when also in his stories when Franklin decided that he's gonna dye his hair black. It's like I don't get it. It's like he's been I don't know. He's liking it and sort of giving it sort of a feel of the current Marvel, where the Fantastic Four has a big connection with all these other characters. What else is there? There's Franklin not being a mutant anymore, that sort of stuff. Um, the I don't know. It's a sad day, but I mean, as a writer, and sitting around and being like, "Hey, I had this thing," and it's different when you're saying you're just starting it. So it's like if the person who's the genesis of it is already on, and we're assigning an artist, you haven't started it, and this guy is showing you all this stuff. It's like the same way Mike Barron and Steve Root met up, where Mike Barron was trying to be an artist, and they said, "Hey, you draw like this guy," which he didn't. So they looked at Steve Root stuff, and he's like, "Let me get rid of all my stuff and let's do something together." And that's a classic way comics are done, where you look at it, it's like saying, "Wow, my Fantastic Four will be something that's gonna be on the shelf." And Dan Slotter's like, "My Fantastic Four will still be on the shelf because everything I do, they put on the shelf, so it doesn't matter." Like, no, but this is gonna be, and you're gonna get, and Alex Ross is bringing not just him, he's bringing Bill Sienkiewicz in there. He's gonna get a bunch of artists in there, and I mean, you could look at his Marvel series that he's doing now, that you kind of get what it'd probably be less of the short story aspect, but getting different talent on there, trying to give this sort of, but him being the sort of the lead artist on it, it really would have been something interesting and nice to see, and giving the Fantastic Four the return that everyone would have kind of like jumped to be like, "Hey, this guy, he's still, he's Alex Ross is still sort of solid." Whereas now, so you can see it's the writer's time. You can see the writer deciding, well, he can kind of do my stories, and it's like, and it's not, the Reed with the looking like that guy from the Hidden Place. It was John Krasinski, that guy, trying to make Reed look like that. So I don't know. I'm going. The thing is going down. This is sad. This thing. I knew it. I knew I was going to be struggling with this one.
Well, folks, we'll see you next time.
Spinner Rack out.